Hey guys, Steve Trevor here. I'm back with episode 8 review, the review for episode 8 of Shadowhunters Season 2. Um, Basically, a big portion, most of this episode was really just a big mind game. Um, we had Max coming back, which I don't think we've seen him since like last season. And he doesn't look like he's changed that much. His hair might have grown out a little bit, but I mean, um, I guess he's back, and like Maurice or May, they keep saying Maurice. I pronounce the name Maurice from the book. I always said Maurice. They say Maurice. I'm just gonna say Maurice, but Maurice is back from Idris, and we kind of find out from Max that they've been fighting, which is definitely a callback from the books. Um, so yeah. But at the beginning of the episode, we got where I believe we left off on with Isabel and the vampires, because she is obviously addicted to the yin fang and the vampire venom in general, because that stuff is made of vampire venom. So she is starting to get, like, there's like a gang of 5 or 6 vampires around her, and like she tries to just say never mind, but then like the blonde vampire, I don't know her name, but like she's like too late, and is going in to bite her, and then like Raphael orders them away. I think I'm guessing that's the pack that he's the leader of, or pack of vampires, whatever you want to call them. And instead, Isabel gets blood from Raphael, even though Raphael says you gotta just sweat it out, you gotta just, just take the hard road out, to get over this. So that's what ends up happening. Raphael ends up sucking some of Isabel's blood so she can get that high from the vampire venom, the high from the vampire venom, to tide her over temporarily. And there's this romance, like there was another meetup between the two as well, again with Isabel giving Raphael some of her blood, even though Raphael says that he does not want to, or that he can't, because I mean, like, his, the Shadowhunter blood is obviously pretty potent to the vampires, and she just doesn't need to be doing this because this is just a bad decision. But there's like a romance being teased between the two, and I just, like, I don't really know how to feel about it. Like, it seems like that's where the show is going with those two. It seems like there's a romance being teased between Isabel and Raphael. Isabel and Simon was in the books, but Isabel and Raphael, and I just don't know. I don't really know how I feel about that. Like, 'cause it seems just kind of sudden. I don't know if maybe we got teases of this earlier this season or last season. I can't quite remember, but if there was, then maybe. But I don't know how to feel about this particular thing yet. So we had the stuff with Isabel, and she's still addicted to the vampire venom and everything. So it's gonna be a wonder how she's gonna get over that, or how that whole thing is gonna be resolved. But yeah, Max is back, and we have. I guess he passed his test. He's getting his first rune, so a party's being thrown in celebration of that. And Maurice is like, she tells Alec that he's in charge of throwing the party, because he's like the oldest. And Alec is obviously not too fond of that idea, and he's like, hell no. So he goes to Magnus, and I think he was like, what do you think about throwing a party? And Magnus was like, have you met me? It was kind of a funny line. I thought it was kind of a funny line, but like, he goes into like the specifics of the party. He says that it's a party, the Shadowhunter party for Max, in celebration of him getting his first rune. And Magnus wants to back out at first, but then Alec is trying to set this up so it can prove to Maurice that they're not ending, or that him and Magnus are a thing and everything. And the thing about that is that in the books, and I know I keep going back to the books, but in the books, it was Alec's father who had a big problem with Alec and Magnus. It wasn't the mom. The mom was pretty much where the dad is at in the show with the whole thing, but for some reason they decided to switch those. They decided to switch it to where the mom has a problem with it and the dad not so much, which I don't understand why, really. I mean, it just seems like another change that didn't need to be added, but whatever. and we find something else about that, but I'll get to that in a minute. So, and then we also get Clary and Simon finally getting together. They have this scene on the bridge, and it's kind of funny. It's probably a little bit cheesy, but it was kind of sweet. Like, you know, it was kind of nice. I mean, like, it was like Simon is obviously just talking and he's stumbling over himself, and then Clary, you know, and then they share a kiss and everything. It was kind of cool. And that was kind of different from that was pretty different from the books too. Happened kind of a different way. I mean, like Simon, like in the first few books, Simon does have feelings for Clary, and he does eventually tell her, or he pretty much tells her. But their relationship doesn't last long at all. For people who have read the books, their relationship pretty much doesn't last long, and has started pretty awkwardly. So, and this right here is definitely just not as awkward as the book. In fact, it's quite the opposite, in my opinion. So, we'll see how long this lasts. But yeah, because Clary in the book, she's kind of just like, oh, okay, you know, I mean, you know, but in the show, it seems like she's quite open to the relationship and pretty dedicated. So, not that she wasn't in the books, but in the books, it was just really awkward how it was set up. Not book readers, you probably don't know what I'm talking about, but book readers, you kind of know what I'm talking about there. So, we got that, and it was kind of nice, because I almost feel like the actors with Clary and Simon have more chemistry than the actors of Clary and Jace. That's just my opinion, though. So, their relationship feels a bit more natural to me. But then again, that was season 1, and we know season 1 had a ton of problems, so maybe it'll be different if they decide to change things up with that in this season. But yeah, anyways, we have the party, and really, it's just like, I mean, really, it's just like, it's mind games, because we find out that Iris, the warlock from episode 3 or 4, the warlock that she goes to, or was it episode 4 or 5, I don't think it was 3, it was episode 4 or 5, where Clary goes to the warlock Iris. She had like red hair and everything, and she wants to bring her mom back from the dead. So the warlock Iris gets Clary to make a blood oath, but then Clary backs out at the last minute. You remember that warlock. We get a scene earlier before the party with Valentine and Iris. And Iris has, it was that one kid from the one, I think it was that one kid from the house, from Iris's house in the episode that we saw her in. She's with that kid, Maisley. I can't remember the kid's name. Iris said it, but I can't remember the kid's name. But with her kid at the park, and Valentine comes and sits down next to her. And I guess he found out what happened with Clary. He's pretty disgusted with that. So he gets like 3 Shadowhunters, and they're grouping around the kid. And you know, Iris is like, "Oh, I'll do anything," because they're gonna take her. And eventually we find out that that is why she was messing with everyone's minds at the party. And since Clary swore a blood oath, that means that pretty much Clary owes her a debt. So that means that then she was like, you know, fine Maisley, I can't remember her name, I think it's Maisley or something like that, and bring her back to me. So Clary may have to do that since it was a blood oath. That's what was hinted at. But yeah, so basically she was just messing with everyone's minds. Like, we saw Alec, like everyone was seeing a person but in a different light. Like, Clary saw Simon cheating on her with Maya, which wasn't real. Like, it was just a part of the spell that Iris was putting on them to mess with their minds. And that had me fooled for a second, honestly. Like, I was fooled. I was like, holy shit, like, that's, wow. Man, Simon, what a douche, you know? But no, I was just a part of the mind games, and like we get like Clary telling Alec that it was his fault for her mom's death, and then we also got like Jay seeing Maurice trying to throw an axe at him and kill him, and like saying that he's not part of the family, because before that Max said that he wasn't part of the family because of his mom probably said it at some point in Idris. But Max didn't mean it because he's a kid, so he's impressionable. But yeah, we get that, and with Maurice was pretty much just like, oh, if I'd known you were half demon, then I wouldn't have brought you into this family, which obviously wasn't real. That was just like the mind game that Iris was trying to play with them. So they were seeing things that weren't real. So if that makes any sense, it probably does. But I'm trying to think what else. Basically, it was just feeding on everyone's insecurities. So we had one with like Clary, we had one with Alec, we had one with Jace. I think that I don't remember anyone else who was really affected. It was Clary, Jason, Alec, Maurice. I don't remember. I think that was it. And Magnus guesses pretty quick what's going on. So he gets out his book, his spell book, and says like an incantation, and it kind of freeze the atmosphere and like freeze everyone from the atmosphere, makes them all realize what was going on, I guess. And so they all start apologizing to each other and everything, and that's when we find out the stuff with Iris and everything, and the incantation that she used to mess with everyone's minds. And then we also find out that apparently Clary has pure angel blood, and that is why Valentine, because we learned from Iris that Valentine did not want Clary harmed. So the reason he doesn't want Clary harmed is because she has pure angel blood, and that can activate the mortal sword. And they talked about, you know, the encounter with the angel that they had too. So there's that. So that's kind of interesting. And then we also got just kind of the wrap up with everyone, because, like, you know, Clary was like, you know, Alec, I don't blame you for my mom's death. And then, like, oh, we also got, because then, like, you know, Maurice was apologizing to Jace about, you know, what Max said, and, you know, what she'd kind of been, her behavior around him. And then we find out that, their dad, or Alex, or Robert, has been cheating on Maurice. So the dad, so Alec, the Lightwood's dad, is cheating on Maurice, which is from the books. See, that happened in the books, but yet in the show, they pretty much, like I said earlier, they pretty much make it to where Maurice has the problem with Magnus and Alec, but Robert doesn't. But yet, they're still having it to where Robert is the one who cheats. So, I'm just a little bit confused, like, why we needed that change at all, but I don't know, that kind of baffles me, but it seems like an unnecessary change, but whatever. So we had that. It was basically just a big mind game at the party. That's all I can really... I mean, I could describe it all day, but that's pretty much what it was with the party for Max. It was really just everyone was getting their minds effed with. And then we got the ceremony where Max got his first rune. It was pretty cool. Like, everyone was like, you know, Isabel was there, Alec was there, Clary was there, Jace was there. Jace kind of winked at Max, and Max winked back. It was kind of cool, because obviously in the book, Max and Jace are pretty close. But, trying to think. And then we got a scene at the end where Valentine has the child of Iris's, and he's got like an ice cream cone for her, and he's like, you and Claire are going to get along really well, which makes me wonder what else is going to happen. So yeah, it was left on an interesting note. Hopefully I'm not forgetting anything, but overall, not a bad episode. A little bit confusing, but when things were explained eventually, it was good. Everything made more sense, obviously. So yeah, not a bad episode. Maybe not as good as I enjoyed last week's episode a lot. This week's episode was still pretty good. I don't understand the change with Maurice and Robert, you know, because, you know, like I said earlier. But I'm glad they're keeping that whole cheating thing in there, because that was a big thing in the later books. But yeah. Oh, and Alec and Jace found out, but she said not to tell Isabel, because Isabel will obviously flip out. So yeah, and she does in the books too. But yeah. Anyways, that's it for this week's review of episode 8, and I'll be back next week with the review for episode 9. So peace, and see you then.